Hi, my name is Kim Newcomer. I am a leader for the sewing project for Ramona Stars 4-H. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Christmas tree ornament. Pretty straightforward. The only difficulty here is that it's a quilted piece, so there's 4 different pieces that are sewn together and then you make the ornament. I sent you the instructions in email and I'm going to go over that now. Okay, you're going to get a kit. The kit will look like this, and here's what your kit will contain. It will contain the template for the tree. It will contain the backing material. It will contain a loop to hold this, and it will contain 4 different pieces of fabric, 4 different colors, like that. Before we get started, iron each of your pieces of fabric just to make sure they're nice and flat, just in case they got wrinkled in the packaging. So you can just lay them out. And give it a nice press. Then we're going to take and cut out our pattern. So use paper scissors, not fabric scissors. Come along. We've got our pattern. At this point, if you want, you can cut out your batting material, but I think we'll wait. Now we're going to sew our fabric pieces together to make the piece of quilt that we then will cut the tree out of. You want to use a 1/4 inch seam, which is a small seam. On my machine, from the center of the needle to the edge of the pressure foot is 1/4 inch. Take 2 of the pieces of fabric and put them right sides together, and you can decide what orientation, what arrangement you want of your fabric. So I think I'm going to do these 2 pieces together first. I'm going to do the wrong side up on one of them, right side up on the one on the table, and then the wrong side down. So now they're right sides together. And I'm going to get them aligned. I'm going to use a pin just to hold it in place for a moment while I get set up on my machine. I'm going to make sure the edges are nice and aligned. I'm set up in my machine, and I'm going to come up to the edge, and I'm going to put the needle down close to the edge, and I'm going to make sure that the edge of the fabric is right in line with the edge of the pressure foot. I'm going to drop my pressure foot, and then I'm going to begin stitching. Nice and slow. I'm going to remove my pin, and then I'm going to finish really watching that edge and making sure I stay with the edge of the fabric on the edge of that pressure foot, making little adjustments with my hands left and right to get it even. There we are. Lift my pressure foot and clip that thread. So now we have 2 of the pieces of fabric together, like that. Let's do the same thing with the other 2 pieces of fabric. And then I'm going to press these open because it'll make it easier for me to sew the next one. I open them up. I like to put the right side down first, and then be careful with your fingers. Finger press the seam over to one side first. Pull the fabric apart so you don't get a buckle in there, and then bring your iron down and gently press that apart. Flip it over and make sure it's nice and pulled apart here. Again, you take your iron and just press through that. Give it a little steam. There, nice and flat. Let's do the same thing on this one. Now you have 2 parts that need to be sewn together. So I'm going to decide that that's how I want my tree to look. And now I'm going to put right sides together, those 2 like that. I'm going to line up the edges and pin, just one pin, just to give myself a little confidence as I'm setting up. Pressure foot, clip those threads, and then trim the threads off nice and even the fabric. You got one more ironing to do, so now these are together. So now you have your fabric piece and your backing piece. I'm going to go ahead and place my fabric on top of my backing. Just check it out. I'm going to lay this on top and see which orientation I want. The fabric, it could go straight up and down, but I think I'm going to choose to do some sort of a diagonal on mine, something like that. And this, you can trace it on the top side of the fabric. Just make sure that you trim off that trace. So get your marker or chalk and come along and trace the outside. You'll see that your pattern is on your fabric. And let's trim it. I'm going to use my fabric scissors, and this time I am going to actually trim these two together because this felt is pretty good at sticking to the cotton fabric. So I'm just going to come in here with these two together, and I'm going to trim. There we have it. Okay, so now we have our tree and our backing material all cut. And it's time to stitch them together. First, we need to put our loop in. So this is our hanging loop. Fold that hanging loop in half. Gather those ends together, get them nice and lined up. Pull up the quilted fabric and lay your loop down inside there. A nice distance so you definitely catch it. Put your fabric down on top and then pin it in place just while we get ready to stitch. There we are. We're in place. If you want, you can also put another pin in a couple of places along your pattern just to keep it held in place as you're stitching. And we'll go over to our sewing machine. All right, now we're going to sew the pieces together. I'm going to start up here where the loop is just to secure that in place. With the pressure foot up, I'm going to run this underneath it, maybe go about 1/4 inch below the tip of the tree, and I'm going to drop my needle down. Be careful where that pin is. I'm going to turn this, and then I'm going to pull the pin out. So now I've got my needle dropped down in there. I'm going to angle the edge so it is, I'm targeting the lower corner of the tree. Drop the pressure foot. And this time I'm using a straight stitch, but you could use a zigzag stitch as well. I'm going to start here, do a little back stitch. I guess you have it under, yeah, there we go. And I'm going to start heading toward that corner. Take the pin out, just make little adjustments. Begin stitching that together. Get about 1/4 of an inch away from that. I'm going to put the needle down, lift the pressure foot, turn. And I'm going to go along the bottom of the tree. Once you get up there, do a little back stitch, and you're done. Pull that out, trim the threads, and then you can come in here and trim threads close, make it look nice and neat. Now the last thing you can do is you can select, if your machine does it, you can select some decorative stitching that you can stitch across the fabric. Not sure if you can see that here. There was a few decorative, a zigzag and a stitch here and another stitch here. So you decide if you want to do that. And you can come in and do some decorative stitching across here. If you want to do it by hand, you can put some beads on here. Whatever you want. It's your Christmas ornament. So that's it. Enjoy it.